We'll look at a few things. We'll look at the word wheel especially, but we'll really do a lot with definitions, biblical understanding, that kind of stuff. And I call that the nerdy, the geeky stuff, because I'm into words, I'm into grammar, I'm into definitions. They excite me. And then next week, we'll look at the psychological benefits of that particular emotion or the psychological pitfalls, the things we need to watch out for. How does that emotion serve us? And then how do we make sure that it only serves us and doesn't destroy us? So that's the way we'll take that. I call myself a PowerPoint queen. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint and we're going to take it from there. And I've prepared about 30 or 35 minutes worth of information so that if anybody does have questions at the end, we can open it up, or you can put questions in the chat. And if I can be technologically savvy and open up the chat and look at it, then I'll answer your question as we go along. But tonight is really just kind of the deep dive, the word part. And the reason the words are important is for communication, for expressing ourselves. So I am going to switch over to the share screen. And this is my PowerPoint. Let's share that. And this is a deep dive into happiness, as we have said before. And I'm going to be mindful of my time. And let's see if my screen is going to cooperate. Oh, this is, there we go. The first thing I like to deal with is emotion, is definitions. So here's a definition from emotion, and where I've used websites, I have the website link at the bottom. But emotion is a conscious mental reaction, such as anger or fear. It is subjectively experienced, that means internally, as a strong feeling usually directed toward a specific object or event, typically accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. So when we emote, when we experience an emotion, it involves every part of our being. It involves our mind, because it's a conscious reaction. You don't have subconscious emotions. They are conscious. They are subjective in that they are experienced in our body, and then they are expressive. They are physically emoted or expressed, so that the people who are looking at us, dealing with us, hearing us, experiencing us through their five senses, they know the emotion that we're dealing with, because that emotion pushes out a behavior towards them. So as we start discussing emotion, get used to seeing this panel, because it's going to be at the front of every presentation so that we're all on the same page. Emotions are a conscious mental reaction, subjectively experienced. It's a strong feeling inside you. And then it has physiological changes. Stuff happens inside your body. And it has external, internal physiological, external in that you push that emotion, you express it to someone else. And it can be, emotions in and of themselves are neutral. Emotions are not good or bad. They are just emotions. However, they are described, or they are categorized as positive and negative because of their effect on your situation. You can have a negative, an emotion can have a negative effect in your body, like bitterness, and it will cause negative reactions like sickness and disease. You can have a positive reaction in your body, like a smile. And when you smile, you cause other people to smile. You smile, you feel good. You smile at someone else, causing them to feel good. That's why they're characterized as both positive and negative, simply because of the results that come up out of them. But the emotions themselves are neutral. Emotions are emotions. They do serve a purpose, though, in life. So let's work on where we, there we go. I think I may have just skipped a slide. But the purpose of emotions is that they help us survive and thrive. The first thing you need to know that an emotion does is that it causes us to take action. If we're going to take a test, let's say you're in school and you have a test tomorrow morning, or a test at the end of the week, you know, you got your finals coming up. You could experience the emotion of anxiety, and that anxious feeling will move you to study so that you do well on the test. So that anxiety will cause you to take action, to study, to deal with the anxiety. Going into the test now, because you've studied, you now know that you can be somewhat at peace, because you don't have to worry about whether or not you will get everything wrong or not do well enough to pass. So it's also akin to having a pleasant event. When you experience a pleasant emotion, happiness, joy, elation, it causes you to take action to experience that pleasant emotion again. Same with fear. The emotions help us to avoid danger. The key emotion for that is fear. Fear tells us to run like nobody's business when we're in a position where we feel threatened. We feel that our life is in danger. Something significant is at stake. And it doesn't have to be just life at danger. It could be fear of losing something, fear of loss. You may not engage in a business deal because of fear. Something about that individual just doesn't rub you the right way. And that emotion, that fear that's raised up, that anxiety, that dis-ease will cause you to avoid danger in going into that negative or that not good for you relationship. So emotions cause us to take action. They motivate us to movement. They can help us avoid danger, particularly through fear and that hunch where we sometimes don't even know what to call it other than a gut reaction. Emotions also help us make decisions. We make decisions, believe it or not, no matter how much we think we're using logic and cognitive reasoning. A lot of times we make decisions just based on that gut reaction. This feels good to me. This feels right to me. This seems like it'll all fit together. Making decisions, it has been scientifically proven that people who have brain damage that affects their ability to emote make poorer decisions. They take longer and the decisions don't work out as well because they don't have that extra sense, that extra perception of the emotions. Emotions also help us communicate and relate. Emotions allow us to understand other people and other people to understand us. That's why I am so key on words. I'm so key on definitions. I'm so into those things so that there is clear communication. When there is no clear communication, you end up with miscommunication, and ultimately, I've never heard of anything good coming out of miscommunication. I've yet to hear of a positive experience that happened because of a miscommunication where people were not accurately describing what was going on in them. So when you communicate and relate these emotions, when you see what's going on somebody else's face, or they give you the words that we're going to look at in a few minutes, you know how to identify specifically what's going on inside them, as well as what's going on inside you. So when they see that smile, they know you're having a good time. When they see that frown, they know it's not so hot. So those are the benefits or the purpose for emotion. You also need to remember from last week, we talked about the fact that there are 3 components to emotion, and I believe that's the slide that I missed, right? Emotion components. There are 3 components to an emotion. They are subjective, physiological, and expressive. And we've talked about these just in dealing with the definition. Subjective is how you feel the emotion on the inside. It's that if you are upset, it's that storm. If you are content, it's that calm easiness. Subjective is subject to your own opinion, so you know what you're feeling on the inside. Emotions are also physiological. That means your body has a response. If you are anxious, you might have an upset stomach on the inside. Your heart may flutter on the inside. Physiological, you may want to cry. Something may happen and lead you to sadness, and you in that sadness may feel tears well up. All of that is physiological, but it's on the inside. And it can be externalized. Somebody can see it on the outside, but it happens in and to your body. The third component of emotion is the part that can become dangerous. Emotion is expressive. That is how you behave towards someone else in the moment of that emotion. So under expressive, if you're feeling good, you might smile, you might giggle, you'll laugh. You may even give a nice sigh. All of that is expressive. The person encountering you while you express your emotions, they can figure out your emotions by the expression that you give. The other side of that is in anger, expressive, you may be led to rage, to rant, to rave, to hit somebody. Sadness, you may storm out of a room and go lay on your bed and kick and scream and cry. So the three parts, the three components to emotion: subjective, how you feel on the inside; physiological, how your body physically responds; and expressive, how you express that emotion outwardly to those that are seeing you and to those that you are seeing. Those are important because you've got to remember that even though you feel it on the inside, you don't necessarily have to express it on the outside in a way that is negative. And that's something that we'll talk about when we deal with the benefit of emotions and how emotions actually serve us. Because remember, the emotions themselves are neutral. They're not good, they're not bad, they just are. How we express them can be the problem. The way that they are, the effect they have on our body can be the problem. But the emotion itself, not a problem. It is just an emotion. There we go. We talked about this one. They help us survive and thrive. Emotions move us to take action. They move us to avoid danger. They move us to make decisions. They move us to communicate and relate. They help us in those areas. Now, we talked tonight about doing a deep dive into happiness. Again, I told you this is the geek night. I love definitions. So the definition of happiness is the state or quality of being happy. Any state of being having considerable permanence in which pleasure decidedly predominates over pain. So you're happy if your good feeling outweighs your bad feeling. But I hate using a word in the definition of the word, so that made me look up the word happy. Happy is enjoying, showing, or marked by pleasure. So pleasure shows up in both places: satisfaction or joy. Happiness is a state or a quality of being happy. State of being having considerable permanence. It means it can last a long time, in which pleasure decidedly predominates over pain. Happy is enjoying, showing, or marked by pleasure, satisfaction, or joy. Now, because I see joy, I want to take a look at joy. Joy, the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, or by the prospect of possessing what one desires. It makes you feel good when you want something, you hope for something, and you finally get it. That moment of elation can be called joy. Now, what you're going to see is a boatload of words, and I like to liken the words as shades of color. I have a red car. I have a neighbor who has a red truck, and we have another neighbor that has a different kind of red car. All three reds are different shades. Mine is a deep magenta red, or actually mine is scarlet. My neighbor has a tomato red, nice, bright, you can't miss it, and the truck is a deep maroon. So all of them are categorized as red. When you look at the title, the car title, they all three say red. But when you look at the cars themselves, they are really three different colors, three different shades of the same base color. So happy is the base emotion that we're looking at. Okay, let's find that right spot. There we go. Happiness appears in the Bible. And because I'm a Christian, I'm Christocentric, everything links to the Bible for me. I found 4 verses that I thought merited our conversation and our looking at. Proverbs 15:13, and Proverbs are general principles. You can't look at the book of Proverbs and say these are promises. Proverbs are general principles. Proverbs 15:13 says, a merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. Countenance is an old school word for face. But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. So you can tell when somebody is happy. When their heart is happy, they're going to show it on their face. You can't be happy and look sad unless you're a really, really good actor. Proverbs 15:15 says, all the days of the afflicted are evil, but he who is of a merry heart has a continuous feast. People who tend toward happiness generally have all kinds of opportunities open to them. They're classified as lucky people. And it's not really because I don't believe in luck, I believe in opportunities. But people who are happy tend to take advantage of opportunities. They tend to see the glass, you've heard that, see the glass is half full as opposed to half empty. So they seem to be lucky because when the door is presented, they knock, and when it's open, they step into the room. So a merry heart makes your face look good, and a frown doesn't. And the person who has a merry heart has a continuous feast. That means that life is good for them. Things are always coming toward them. Happiness attracts good. If you want to talk about the law of attraction, happiness attracts good toward you. That's that continuous feast. They always have opportunities. They always are out with people. They're always having fun. That's happiness and its attraction culture. Proverbs 17:22 says, a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. We need to seek happiness. We need to work on being happy, because being happy can actually improve our health. There was a movie I believe it was in the 90s, and the name of the movie was Patches, if I remember correctly. It was about a doctor who was also a clown. He was a pediatrician, and he discovered that when he told the kids jokes, they seemed to do better with their treatments. And I believe he was in a cancer hospital or something along those lines. But the children tended to do better with their treatments when they were laughing. So he made it his goal to bring laughter to the hospital, to get the children laughing. And he would come in dressed as a clown to administer treatments to the children. He'd do tricks, he'd do balloon animals, because he noticed that when they were laughing, when they were happy, the treatment protocols had a tendency to work better. Happiness is good in the bones. Happiness is good in our bones. So a merry heart is like medicine. It'll make you feel better. One of the quotes that I looked at says, there's nothing better than a good hard laugh. It's a great reason for your stomach to hurt. Merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. We look better. It actually takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. And smiling is great face exercise. You look younger when you smile. Kirk Franklin said, you look so much better when you smile. Now, the last verse is an interesting one to me. And I put it there, and it's really a piece of a statement. But I put it there because when I read it, it got my undivided attention. Look at this. It says, because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and gladness of heart for the abundance of everything. When you read the whole chapter, this is a section on punishment. And God says he punished the people of Israel because they did not serve him with joy and gladness of heart. They considered serving God a drudgery. God wants cheerful servers, cheerful givers. God wants us to laugh. God wants us to be happy. God is invested in our happiness. So much so that he punished the nation of Israel because they were not serving him with the joy and gladness of heart, especially since he had provided an abundance of everything. All they needed was made available to them, and they were still complaining. God does not like complainers. Now, what you have in front of you here is an emotional word wheel. Told you, I'm big on words. In the center of the wheel are the 7 core emotions. They are the 7 base emotions. There's happy, which we're talking about tonight. There's surprised. There's bad. Believe it or not, emotion. There's an emotion called feeling bad. There's fearful. There's angry. There's disgusted. And there is sad. And what I want to draw your attention to is the words that are in the outer circles, because in that emotion, there are several shades. When we say to somebody, I'm happy, and they ask you, what do you mean by that? You could say, I'm happy, meaning I'm optimistic, I'm inspired, or I'm hopeful. You could say, I'm trusting. And in a trusting, when you feel trusting, or you feel that you can trust the person you're with, you're open to being intimate and being sensitive. You could say that you are peaceful, and peaceful carries with it an attitude of gratitude, thankfulness, and being loving. So look at all of these wonderful shades to those words. If you're feeling powerful, and I thought I never understood feeling powerful as being an emotion connected to my happiness level. But nobody wants to feel powerless. Everybody wants to feel empowered. So when you feel powerful, you also have with that creativity and courageousness. So your courage is linked to your feeling of powerfulness or empowerment, which is attached to your happiness. If you're feeling accepted, you could say you're feeling valued and respected. How important is that in a conversation? If you're talking to somebody, trying to get them to understand that by cutting you off when you had started a sentence, you could say to them, I don't feel valued at this moment. But if they do something, they allow you to continue your point, to complete your statement, or they honor your opinion, you could say, wow, that really makes me feel valued. That is so much more significant than just saying, you know what, you made me feel happy. If you're feeling proud, you're confident and successful. Now, the Bible does say pride goes before a fall, but that's that arrogant, egotistical pride. But proud that you have accomplished something, proud that you are confident, that's linked to happiness. You're interested. This one I thought was really, really unique. Being interested is linked to being happy, curious and inquisitive. So if you're at a happy moment, you will actually go and search something out. If you are at the amusement park and you're laughing with friends and someone says, let's try that big roller coaster, where you might have been fearful before because you're happy, you're with your friends, you're experiencing a pleasant moment, you could be inquisitive, you could be curious, you could be bold, you could be interested in that roller coaster, which you otherwise would not have ridden if you were in a bad situation with a bunch of unhappy people. If you're feeling contented, I love that. That's the sense of freedom and joyfulness. When you are content and satisfied, things are going well, things are good, that's just a great place to be. And the last one is playful, which is attached to happiness. And look at the two words that go with it, cheeky and aroused. I was like, ooh, aroused and cheeky. Cheeky is a sense of boldness. That's whenever I've heard that word used, it's been in actually it's been tied to Britain, where people will say someone's feeling a bit cheeky today. That means they're feeling a bit bold, a bit out there. And then aroused. We don't have to say any more about that. We can leave that one right where it is. But look at how much more interesting and in depth your conversation can be when you begin to use other words to express how you feel in that moment. Look at all of those shades. And then with all the words in the wheel, there are words that did not get on the wheel, but that I want to discuss with you. I have to get to them. There we go. Here are the words. Those are certain words. I looked it up, and there are over 3,400 emotional words in the English language. 3,400 emotional words. We just have, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's a good place to start. It's a good place to start to tell somebody, I feel accepted, I feel valued, I feel respected in the relationship that we have. Or if you have to end a relationship, I don't feel respected, I don't feel valued. You can say, I'm trusting you in this moment, so I'm sensitive, I'm grateful, I'm at peace. I love the words because they broaden our ability to communicate with one another. Let's go back, we skipped over one. Here are the other positive emotion words. Gratitude is a feeling of thankfulness for something specific or simply all-encompassing, often accompanied by humility and even reverence. Gratitude. Serenity. That's a good one. A calm and peaceful feeling, particularly in acceptance of self. Amused. Amusement is a feeling of lighthearted pleasure and enjoyment, often accompanied by smiles and easy laughter. Self-esteem. How many of us need that one? Self-esteem is tied to confidence. It's an emotion involving a strong sense and belief in yourself. It can be specific to a situation or activity, or it can be even more universal. You can be with people who give you a good sense of self-esteem, and that's an emotion. It's tied to happiness. It makes you feel good. There's delight. There's admiration, which is not on here. There's altruism, and I love that word. Excuse me, I'm having to grab my notes. Optimism, altruism is that feeling of doing things just because it's a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Relief. Relief is a really good one. The feeling of happiness you experience when an uncertain situation turns out for the best or a negative outcome is avoided. Remember, there's an old commercial. I'm dating myself. There's a product called Rolaids. And they used to say their commercial slogan was, "How do you spell relief?" And people would say ROLAIDS. Relief is that feeling that you get when you've avoided a negative outcome or things worked out better than what you expected. There is elevation. Elevation is the feeling you get when you see someone engaging in an act of kindness, generosity, or inner goodness, spurring you to aspire to a similar action. So elevation and inspiration go hand in hand. Now, the best one of all of the positive emotions is sitting on the bottom of the page, and it is love. It is love, love. Perhaps the strongest of all positive emotions. Love is a feeling of deep and enduring affection for someone, along with a willingness to put their needs ahead of your own. It can be directed towards an individual, a group of people, or even all humanity. Of all of the positive emotions, the greatest of them is love. And it's because it will cause you to do what is best for someone else. Love moves us toward being selfless and not selfish. Enthusiasm is excitement. Satisfaction ties to serenity. But I have love. I need to stop there because love is a good one. I'm using up my time. Let me go back over here. Now, theologian and Old Testament scholar David Murray says that God gives us 7 types of happiness. 7 types of happiness. He says the first happiness is natural happiness. And natural happiness is enjoying the creation. This is the kind of joy that can be derived from the creation, the happiness we experience through our physical senses when we encounter God's handiwork. Mountains, rivers, lakes, trees, flowers, animals, seasons, weather, food, all of them and much more can put smiles in our heart and on our faces. Natural is what we encounter. Natural happiness is the happiness we experience with our 5 senses. It's what we see, it's what we taste, it's what we smell, it's what we hear, it's what we touch. And then there's social happiness. Social happiness is the joy that we find, the pleasure that we find in our family and our friends. Relationships of different kinds and degrees are integral to a happy life. I have said it before, I'll say it again. Every hermit I've ever heard of went crazy. We were created to be in community. We were created to experience social happiness, to enjoy each other's fellowship and company. Then there's vocational happiness. That's enjoying our jobs. Although jobs can often frustrate us, we also experience much job satisfaction, even exhilaration when things go well. If you worked on a project and all of a sudden everything with that project fell into place, it's like the A-team where the guy who's the leader of the A-team says, "I love it when a plan comes together." When all of the pieces come together, there is a happiness that can come from work. Physical happiness is enjoying health and strength. It's the joy we get from being fit, strong, and healthy and able to do what we want to do. Able to do what we want to do. There is happiness when you decide you want to go running and you can actually lift up your legs to run. When you decide you want to bake a cake and you have the physical ability, the know-how to bake a cake. It's especially intense and special to those who have their health and comfort restored after a sickness or injury. I knew physical happiness when I had my knees replaced. Because when I talk about not being able to run, for me, that was real. For 3 years, I was in excruciating pain because my knees were literally falling apart. And when I got my knees fixed and I was able to walk through a store without being in pain, I was a happy camper. Then there's intellectual happiness. Intellectual happiness comes from enjoying studying and learning. Bookworms are intellectually happy people. It's the pleasure that comes from understanding something, analyzing it, explaining it, improving it, remembering it, using it. Intellectual happiness can come when you master a subject or you solve a problem. You enjoy a kind of mental ecstasy. And then there's humorous. There's humor happiness. It's enjoying jokes and funny stories. That's a gift from God. Being able to just laugh out loud is a gift from God. God created humanity with a sense of humor. It's not the result. Some people argue that the sense of humor came in with sin, but it didn't. God made us to enjoy laughter. God made us to enjoy having a good time. God made us, we are wired for fun. It's often hard in today's society, though, to separate humor from sin today because so much of comedy has become so vulgar and crude and demeaning of other people. But there's still such a thing as healthy humor. If you haven't done it already, let me recommend a guy for you to listen to. His name is Michael J. You can YouTube it, Michael J. He is an excellent, clean comedian, tremendously hilarious, clean. We remember Sinbad. Sinbad's goal was that every show was a show that his father could attend. And he said he did one show where he swore like he heard the other people do. And when he came off the stage, the manager of the club looked at him and said, "Don't ever do that again. That's not who you are. Be authentic to who you are. Do clean comedy." So God has given us this gift, and good, clean comedy can make you happy. And then the last of the happinesses is spiritual. Spiritual happiness is enjoying God through his word and his spirit. For those of us who are Christians, and I know there may be people who are not Christians listening to this, but I'm a Christian. For those of us who are Christians, the highest form of happiness that we can experience is being in touch with God. Being in touch, being in his word, being in his presence, being in prayer, being able to give him all of our concerns and receive his peace. According to David Murray, who is a theologian and an Old Testament scholar, these are the 7 types of happiness that God has given us through his grace and mercy. And all the top 6, natural, social, vocational, physical, intellectual, and humorous, are experienced by everybody on the planet, good, bad, and indifferent. Happiness is God's gift to all of humanity. And then he adds to that 7 layer, that special relationship with him. Now, my final slide is going to take us into what we'll talk about next week, which is the psychological benefits of happiness. This slide comes from a woman named Gretchen Rubin, who is an author whose favorite topic is happiness. She's written several books and has a blog on happiness specifically. She's a happiness guru. But she says that she's come up with the 4 stages of happiness, and I call them 4 ways to get more happiness out of life. The first thing she says that we should do is anticipate an event with pleasure. That means to allow yourself to get excited about something on your calendar that you are going to do. If you plan to go to a concert and you bought tickets, anticipate the joy you're going to receive from that concert with those tickets. If you've got a date scheduled with a good friend, anticipate that event. Think about that event with pleasure. And then when that event happens, when it takes place, savor the moment as you experience it. How many times do moments just pass us by? You ever have a day where at the end of the day, you just kind of wonder where time went? Everything was happening so fast. Sometimes we forget to experience, we get so busy living life, we forget to experience life. We get so busy just living till we stop the experience and we miss those moments that would take our breath away. Those moments that are the moments to remember. So she says, when you anticipate the event with pleasure. Don't think about the bad things that could happen. Think about the good things. Think about the enjoyment that you'll get out of that moment, out of that event. And then as that event takes place, savor it. Really experience that moment. Be present in it. Notice what your friend is wearing. Notice the song that they opened the concert up with. I remember seeing Gladys Knight when I was in college. I had a really good seat, and me and the 6 people next to me swore she winked at just us alone. We all came out going, "Did you see her wink? She winked at me." No, man, it was me. We got to savor that moment. And then when you savor the moment, express the happiness to yourself or to others. Relive that moment. Tell somebody else about how it made you feel. Go and describe that concert to somebody else. Describe that meal. You get more happiness out of life when you begin to express happiness, when you begin to talk about it. Put happiness in your mouth and then reflect on the happy memory. That means when you get home, just sit down and think about it. Just relive that moment in your mind. And then your mind is flooded with all of those good, they're called endorphins, that make you feel good in the moment. When you do this, you get more happiness out of your life. And when you get more happiness out of your life, guess what you end up with? You end up with a happier life. You end up with a life that embraces and draws good toward you rather than sends it away. So get more happiness out of life. Anticipate the event with pleasure. Savor the moment as you experience it. Express, talk about that moment to yourself and to somebody else, and then reflect on it mentally. Just go back and relive in that moment. You can grab objects. This is a good time to grab old photographs and look at photographs from birthday parties and family events and galas that you attended, and just relive those moments. As you experience those moments all over again, you will find that happiness enters in. And where happiness resides, all of the negative emotions can't hang out with it. So you get more out of life when you get more happiness in your life. All righty? That's my presentation for tonight. That's the last of my PowerPoints. We can stop the share and come back to me. Are there any questions? Did anybody have anything that they wanted to say? I don't see anything in the chat. And I have done 40 minutes, which is 10 minutes longer than I anticipated. But is there anything that anybody wants to ask about this deep dive into happiness? Any things you'd like me to cover next week?
I don't see anything in the chat on Facebook either, Dr. K, but I see our guest, she opened her mic up. Did you have a question?
No, I was saying it was a great presentation because for me, I have a slew of emotions. So for me, it kind of touched me personally.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that, Nadine.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
for me, last year I went through a miscarriage. So when Miss Ross told me about this, it kind of, and I didn't even know about the topic until I went in the group and I saw that and I was like, wow, emotions. Because today I actually got a package because I'm still getting like baby stuff in the mail. And I literally cried today because I'm like, why am I still getting stuff in the mail? And I literally cried. And then I saw the topic and it's literally 10 minutes before I said, you know what, I'm going to get on this platform to see what it's about. You know, I said, I need to hear it. So I came to see, I didn't even realize that it was, actually, I didn't even know it was going to be live until I actually read through the message again. I'm like, I don't want to be on live, but I wanted to hear the message. So that's why I came on.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you chose to join us. And I am so sorry to hear about your miscarriage. That I went through that, so I can identify with how you feel. And I will be praying for you to recover and then for you to eventually. Now, do you have any other children? Would this have been your first?
That was my first.
Okay, then I presume you want more. You want children.
I don't know.
I was gonna say, if you want children, then I'll be praying for you for that to happen, for God to bless you.
Only God
Uh,
knows.
huh?
Only God knows.
Only okay. I was gonna say because if you don't, I won't make that prayer. But I would definitely be praying. But I'll be praying for your healing from that because that can take you through some real emotional hardships.
Right. Thank
And
you.
I can identify with that. But I so appreciate you being on.
Thank
And on the Zoom, you can actually block the camera if you don't want to be on the live part. You can actually block the camera and just put up your name, or yeah, usually I think it just shows a name.
Right. Right.
So that
Dr. K, I wanted to jump on really quickly. Can you ladies hear me?
yes, we can.
I also wanted to send my just condolences as well. And I wanted to make sure that we thank everybody for viewing tonight, and we stop the share when we go into Q&A as we promised the guests last
Okay.
week, so that we keep their questions
Confidence.
confidential. And so if somebody would like to come into this private chat room with us, just click on the Zoom link inside of the Win Women Heal group. And if not, we just want to thank you guys for viewing. We want to ask you to share it with friends and family, others who may benefit from tonight. And we're going to ask Tanisha to stop the share at this time. And anyone who would like to can join inside of the Zoom group with us. Thank you so much, Tanisha. Dr. K, and what's your name again?
Me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Nadine.
Nadine,
Yeah.
we're so sorry to hear about the miscarriage. There are so many different